So this is test 6, section 4 of the official SAT Study Guide 2016 from Collegeboard. Question 1. Which expression is equivalent to this? Alright, so we have to distribute this minus sign to each of these pieces. So the first is 2x squared minus 4, and then we've got a plus 3x squared, right? We've got a minus 2x, and we've got a plus 7. So altogether here we get 5x squared, and then we put the minus 2x, and then minus 4 with plus 7 is plus 3. So that looks like choice A. The graph above shows the positions of Paul and Mark during a race. Paul and Mark each ran at a constant rate, and Mark was given a head start to shorten the distance he needed to run. Paul finished the race in 6 seconds. Mark finished the race in 10 seconds. According to the graph, Mark was given a head start of how many yards? Well, we can look at the distance axis. It looks like Paul started at a distance of 0, and Mark started at a distance of between 12 and 24, which that's a span of 12, so we go halfway, which is 6, so 18. 18 yards, yeah. Snow fell and then stopped for a time. When the snow began to fall, it fell at a faster rate than it had initially. Okay. So alright, so the faster rate comes at the end, okay? So that means we're looking for the end to be steeper than the beginning and a flat in the middle, so choice A. A website hosting service charges businesses a one-time setup fee of $350 plus D dollars for each month. So if you let X be the number of months, this will be the equation. The business owner paid $10.10 for the first 12 months. So then we could plug in 12 for X. We can then solve for D. So we subtract 350, right? So let's grab our calculators. Okay, 1010 minus 350 gives 660. That's 12D. So then we divide by 12. So take this and divide it by 12, and that gives 55. Okay, so the answer is choice D. Which of the following inequalities is equivalent to the one above? Alright, so it looks as though they are simplifying it. So if we maybe factor out a 3 from the left side, we would then get 2x minus 3y greater than 12. Then we could divide by 3 on both sides, canceling it out, and we get 2x minus 3y is greater than 4. And that's choice B. Okay, the table above shows a summary of 1,200 responses to a survey question. Based on the table, how many of those surveyed get most of their medical information from either a doctor or the internet? So doctor or internet, so that's 76%, which as a decimal would be 0.76 times the 1,200. So 0.76 times 1,200, that's going to give 912, right? The members of a city council wanted to assess the opinions of all city residents about converting an open field into a dog park. The council surveyed a sample of 500 city residents who own dogs. The survey showed that the majority of those sampled were in favor of the dog park. Which of the following is true about the city council survey? Right, so it's biased because they only asked people who own dogs, right? It shows that the majority, no. Should have consistent entirely, no. Is biased because it's not representative, yeah. Okay, table above shows the flavors of ice cream and the toppings chosen by people at a party. Each person chose one flavor of ice cream and one topping. Of the people who chose vanilla ice cream, so we're in this category, what fraction chose hot fudge? So 8 out of 13. Notice that the total is not the grand total of everything added together. It says of the people who are in the vanilla column, right? So this is a conditional probability, which means that you have to limit your scope, okay? The total area of a coastal city is 92.1 square miles, okay, of which 11.3 square miles is water. If the city had a population of this, which of the following is closest to population density in people per square mile of land area? So we have to find the square mile of the land area. So we have 92.1 to start out, 92.1. We then have to subtract away the water, 11.3. Whoops, 11.3. So that gives us 80.8 square miles of land area. Okay. And we want to know people per square mile. So we do 621,000 people divided by that many square miles. So we do 621,000. We divide that by answer. All right, that gives you 76.85. Okay. Between this and this, Amerigo Vespucci embarked on 2 voyages. According to Vespucci's letters, the first voyage lasted 43 days longer than the second voyage, and the 2 voyages combined last a total of this. So, okay, first one plus the last one, that would equal 1,003. The first voyage is 43 more than the second voyage. Okay, so then here we can plug this in for x, and we get 43 plus 2y equals 1,003. Subtract 43. Okay, and we get 2y equals 1,003 minus 43, 960, and then we're going to have to divide that by 2, right? Divided by 2, 480. Now that's for y, right, which is the second voyage. And that's what we want. Good. Okay. Alright, for the solution to the system of equations above, what is the value of x minus y? So usually when they ask for a weird combination, that combination will arise when you either add or subtract the lines, or you might get a multiple of it. Let's see what it is in this case. So maybe, yeah, it's not going to happen here. So in this case, we're actually just going to have to solve it out. The nice part is that when we add these lines, we get 13x, the y's cancel, equals 13. So therefore, x equals 1. Okay. Now, to find y, we can just plug back in. So if x equals 1, we get 7 times 1 plus 3y equals 8. Subtract 7. We get 3y equals 1. Divide by 3. So y equals 1/3. So x is 1 and y is 1/3. When you do 1 minus 1/3, you get 2/3. Over which of the following time periods is the average growth rate of the sunflower the least? Okay, so the average growth rate can be represented by the slope. So we want to know where this is the slope the least. And it looks like right around here, I would say, between 63 and 70. So we'll go choice D. The function h, defined by this, models the height of the sunflower t days after growth. During a time period in which the growth is approximately linear. What does a represent? Well, a represents the slope. And as we just discussed, the slope is the average growth rate. Okay? So it's not the predicted height. The predicted total increase in height? No. The predicted number of centimeters the sunflower grows each day. Yeah. So this would be centimeters per day, right? It would be, remember, slope always has a unit rate, which is sort of a division like that. 14. The growth rate of the sunflower from day 14 to day 35 is nearly constant. On this interval, which of the following equations best models the growth? Okay, so we can find the slope. That's usually the best way to do these. So from day 14 to day 35. So day 14 is here, and day 35 is here. So if we do a change in y over change in x, that'll give us the slope. Okay, so the y value is 131 subtract 36.36. So that's our change in y. Divide that by parentheses change in x, 35 minus 14. We get 4.5 for the slope. And that should be a dead giveaway that the answer is B. Okay. Which of the following equations relates y to x for the values in the table above? Right? So let's see. If we plug in x, we should be able to get y, right? So if we plug in 1, we should get 11/4. So let's see if that happens for choice A. So we would get 5/4 for choice A. And for choice B, if we plug in 1, we end up with 6/4. Let's see. So if we plug in 1 here, we end up with 2 3/4, which, if you converted this into 8/4, that would be 11/4. That's good. If I plugged in 1 for the last one, I would get 7/2, which is really 14/4 minus 3/4, so that would make 11/4, right? So both of those work. The only difference is what the slope is. So the next point we'll be able to determine which of these is best. So if I plug in x equals 2, right? So then here I would get 6/4 plus 2, and 2 again is 8/4, so that's 14/4. That's no good. We're supposed to get 25/4. Right? So the answer must be D, but just to make sure, if we plug in 2 here, these 2's cancel, so we get 7 minus 3/4. Now 7 is really 7, 14, 21, 28. It's 28/4, right? So this subtraction gives you 25/4, which is exactly right. These triangles are shown above. Which of the following is equal to the ratio of BC to AB? So here's BC, and here's AB. Okay. If you find the missing angle, you'll see that these are actually similar triangles. Because this is a 32 here, right? You just simply have to, these have to add up to 90 since you already have 90 out of the 180 accounted for. So you do 90 minus 58, and you'll find that's equal to 32. And similarly, here you'd get 58 for this angle. So when you have a triangle with all 3 sides being equal, all 3 angles being equal, those 2 triangles are similar, right? So anyway, if I take BC to AB, that would be like taking the smallest side here to the hypotenuse. So it'd be like taking DF to DE. So that's choice B. All right. Which of the following expresses the riser height in terms of the tread depth? Okay, so we have this formula here, which is 2h plus d equals 25. And we want to solve that thing for h. Okay, so the first thing we do is subtract d to the other side. So we have 2h equals 25 minus d, and then we divide by 2 on both sides. So h equals 25 minus d over 2, which is the same thing as half of 25 minus d. Some building code requires that for indoor stairways, the tread depth must be at least 9 inches. Okay, so the tread depth is d. So d is at least, which means greater than or equal to 9. And the riser height must be at least 5. Okay? According to the riser tread formula, which of the following inequalities represents the set of all possible values for the riser height that meets this code requirement? Okay, so again, the formula is 2h plus d is equal to 25. Okay, and we have to consider both of these constraints, right? Let's see. So we know that the riser height can't is greater than or equal to 5, right? So let's plug in 5 for the riser height. 2 times, should we do that? No, let's do that for the D value. So we'll plug in the extremum for D, which is 9, and solve this out. That'll give us a condition on H. Alright, divide by 2, and H is equal to 8 would be the value we get in that circumstance. So when we plug in the extreme value here, we end up with 8, right? So that's another extreme value for the riser height, H. Okay, so that means that this would be constrained on the high end by 8, right? Yeah. So I claim that the answer is choice C. So H would have to be greater than 5, and it would have to be less than or equal to 8. An architect wants to use the riser tread formula to design a stairway with a total rise of 9 feet. A riser height, H, between 7 and 8, okay, and an odd number of steps. With the architect's constraints, which of the following must be the tread depth? So what is D going to equal? Okay, so let's see here. So what is the total rise? How do we get that? Well, we add the riser height times the number of steps. So let's call the number of steps x. Okay, so if we take the riser height times x, that'll give us the total rise, which we want to equal 9, right? Okay, and we want there to be an odd number of steps, and we want H to be between 7 and 8, right? Okay. Right, so, does this make any sense? Oh, 9 feet. 9 feet. These rest of numbers are in inches. So we have to convert that to inches. So 9 times 12. Okay. 108 is what that's going to equal to. Alright, so yeah, so we need to know sort of what ballpark we're in. So let's just take 108, divide it by 7 and 8. 108 divided by 7, 108 divided by 8. So we're somewhere between 13.5 and 15.4. 13.5, 15.4 for the number of stairs. Okay, and so since we want an odd number of stairs, we have to take 15 stairs, you see, because that's the only odd number in that range. So now we know that x equals 15, okay, and then we could find out what h would equal when x is equal to exactly 15. So we take 108 and divide that by 15, and that gives us 7.2 for h. But beware of the partial answer here. Okay, we're not asked for h, we're asked for the tread depth d. And so we need to go back to the formula, which is 2h plus d is equal to 25. So we plug in the 7.2, right? So 2 times 7.2, all right, 14.4 plus d is 25. And then we subtract 25 minus 14.4, and that'll give us 10.6 for the value of d. All right. What is the sum of the solutions to this? Okay, so when we t-chart this, you get x equals 6 and x equals negative 0.7. So we do 6 minus 0.7. That will give you 5.3. A study was done on the weights of different types of fish in a pond. A random sample of fish were caught and marked in order to ensure that none weighed more more than once. The sample contained 150 largemouth bass, of which 30% weighed more than 2 pounds. Which of the following conclusions is best supported by the sample data? All right, let's see. Okay. The majority of all fish in the pond weigh less than 2 pounds. We don't know that. We only know about largemouth bass. The average weight of all fish, no. Approximately 30% of all fish, no. Approximately 30% of all largemouth bass in the pond weigh more than 2 pounds. Yeah, that's a good one. All right, so here we have a table, frequency table. In 2008, there were 21 states with 10 or more electoral votes. Based on the table, what was the median number of electoral votes for the 21 states? Okay, so we know that there's a total of 21 states, so that's going to be the total of the frequency column. And so we were looking for the middle of 21, right? The trick is to add 1 and then divide by 2. So you get 11. So we want the 11th state from either end, right? So we could start at the top end, or effectively this is the bottom end, but 4 and 4 is 8, and 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Alright, so we're in this category, the 11th item from the top here. So yeah, 15. Okay. After it was dropped, how many times was the ball at a height of 2 feet? Okay, so this is the ball. Here it's at a height of 2 feet. Here it is 3 times. Notice how I didn't read all this? A lot of times you don't have to. A customer's monthly water bill was this. Due to a rate increase, the bill is this. What was the percent increase? All right, so change over original times 100 is one way to do it. So 75.74, take the difference, 79.86. Divide that by the original, which was 75.74, and then times that by 100. And we get 5.4%. Doesn't matter that it's negative, it just means I flipped it the wrong way around with the subtraction. Some values of the linear function f are shown in the table above. What is the value of f of 3? So we want to plug in an x value of 3. Well, we could find the slope, right? That'll help. So it looks like it went up 6, and this went up 2. So the change in y is 6, change in x is 2, so the slope is 3. Which means every time you change by 1, you're going to change up by 3. So if I wanted to go to 3 here, I'd have to go up 3 here to go to 7. Okay, change in y would be 3 for a change in x of 1. All right, a gear ratio is all right. If gear A is rotated by the motor at a rate of 100 RPM, what is the number of RPM for gear C? Okay, so a gear ratio R to S. All right. The RPM would be S to R, so it kind of reverses, right? So here's 20 teeth to 60 teeth, so that's like 2 to 6 ratio. In other words, a 1 to 3 ratio. So then the speeds would be at a 3 to 1 ratio, right? So the big wheel would have to spin 3 times faster. Is that right? Or is it the other way? No, the small wheel would go 3 times faster. Yeah. Good. So 3 to 1. So if this was going 100, this would go in 100 over 3. Okay, and then this ratio is 6 to 1. So it would be a 1 to 6 ratio. So I then have to multiply by 6 the speed. And that would make 200. Okay. In the xy plane, the graph of this is a circle. What's the radius? So this is a completing the square question. All right, so we have to group all our x information together and group all our y information together and have the number on the other side. Okay. Let's see. So For this one, I would actually factor out a 2. Have x squared minus 3x. Should I do that? I suppose. Yeah. And then here I'd factor out a 2 again and have y squared minus y. Okay. Then I would divide by 2 everywhere. 1, 2, 3. These cancel, right? And so yeah, now I could actually complete the square. So I half 3 and square it. So that gives me 9. So half of 3 is 3 point, oh sorry. Yeah, half of 3 is 3 halves. Square the top and bottom, you get 9/4. So we have to add that to both sides. So we add 9/4. And then half of 1 is 1/2. Square that, you get 1/4. Right? So we add a quarter to both sides as well. Alright, and then we just have to sort out the right hand side here. So this is 10/4, which is 5 halves. So 45 halves and 5 halves is 50 halves, which is equal to 25. This is our r squared value. If you know your formula, the right hand side is r squared, so the radius would just be 5. Right? We don't even need to complete the left side. Two different points on a number line are both 3 units from the point with the coordinate -4. So 3 units away from that could be at -1 or -7, right? The solution to which of the following equations gives the coordinates of both points? Okay, no problem. So let's see. Yeah, it would just be choice A. So, right, this is the sort of favorite number and allowance problem. So, for example, if I have a temperature in my house set to 70 degrees, but I allow it to stray by up to 2 degrees, right? This would be my equation for that. So, yeah, basically, this number right here, without the sign in the middle, is your favorite, let's say temperature in this case, and this here would be your allowance, right? So this is always less than or equal to. In this case, actually, it's equal to, because we only want those points. We don't want the whole shading in. But typically it's less than or equal to, and then this is always a minus, right? So now for our particular case here, we have x instead of t for temperature, x minus -4, which is why it turns into plus +4, you see. But still, it's always minus. And then that has to equal 3. So 3 is your allowance that you're allowed to stray on either side of your favorite number. So this is your favorite number, and this is your allowance. So you see it follows the same pattern.